This video is brought to you by Humixx. In my review of the iPhone 14, I said that out of the whole iPhone lineup, this is the least exciting new iPhone. And this is largely due to the fact that the iPhone 14 compared to last year's iPhone 13, which Apple still sells and now for less, the iPhone 14 only adds a few upgrades. The question is, are these upgrades enough reason to buy the iPhone 14, or are you better off buying last year's iPhone 13 and saving some cash? To answer this, we'll look at the differences and crucially the similarities between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 to find out which is the better buy. As always, I will leave all the purchase links down in the description. But first, I am doing a giveaway on this brand new iPhone 14. Yes, just pulling them out like magic. This here is a blue iPhone 14. If you guys want a chance to win, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment your favorite feature of the iPhone in general, along with your Instagram username, and then follow me on Instagram, where I will announce the winner on November the 27th. Alright, so to start, let's compare the prices of both phones. Now, the iPhone 14 is currently sold by Apple, and here I have the 128GB model, which comes in at $799, whereas the iPhone 13, which is also still being sold by Apple, comes in at $100 less, at $699. Now, this price difference is not insignificant. But the question is, for this $100 price difference, what do you gain or lose? Well, compared to the iPhone 13, the iPhone 14 adds camera upgrades. The 12 megapixel sensor is now larger and also faster with an f1.5 aperture. And this results in improvements in low light, also thanks to the new Photonic engine, which is essentially software which will further enhance your photos after you take them. Well, this all sounds good, but are the photos hugely different from the iPhone 14 compared to the iPhone 13? Well, not really. The differences in photos are mostly only visible in low light scenarios, where yes, the iPhone 14 does get brighter and retains detail slightly better. Also, I noticed when taking long exposure photos, it is quite a bit faster compared to the iPhone 14, usually taking 2 seconds versus 3 or 3.5. But where the differences are more apparent is when shooting video. Now, the iPhone 14 introduces action mode, and this is a new level of almost gimbal-like stabilization, and when comparing the two, you definitely notice this difference, creating super smooth video that is noticeably better when compared to the iPhone 13. The iPhone 14 also adds two big new safety features, the first of which is crash detection, which we also saw on the newer Apple Watches. Crash detection, as the name implies, will detect if you're ever in a car crash and then automatically call emergency services if you do not respond to an on-screen prompt. Now, this is something I hope to never need, but sure is reassuring to have. And then secondly is emergency SOS via satellite. Now, from a technological perspective, this is really cool, as it allows you to connect to a satellite to send an emergency message for help, even if you have no cell service. This service just started in the US and Canada and is free for 2 years, with plans to expand to much of the rest of the world. Depending on your lifestyle, if say you spend a lot of time outdoors or off the grid, this feature alone could be life-saving and might just be enough reason to get the 14 over the iPhone 13. The iPhone 14 also adds a slight improvement in the processor. Both the iPhone 13 as well as the iPhone 14 get the A15 Bionic chip, unlike the new iPhone 14 Pros, which get the upgraded A16 chip. Now, the difference between the two is that the A15 chip on the iPhone 13 has 4 GPU cores, while the iPhone 14's has 5 GPU cores, although one may be a little bit damaged. Now, is this a difference that you really see in day-to-day use? Not really. Honestly, both phones are still very fluid and fast. Now, I'm sure that specific benchmarks or specific tasks may show a difference, but again, in day-to-day use, both phones run super smooth and fluid as you would expect from an iPhone. And importantly, because these are both A15 Bionic chips from the same generation, I would expect the iPhone 13 as well as the iPhone 14 to get the same number of years of software support and updates. At this stage, I would rate this from anywhere to 4 to 5 years. Oh, and then lastly, if you are in the US, the iPhone 14 will now only support eSIM, so no longer has the SIM tray, unlike the iPhone 13. In the rest of the world, like here in the UK, you will still see a SIM tray. However, I do think that this will be phased out in the not so far future. Perhaps more important than the differences between these phones are what they have in common. But before we look at that, no matter which iPhone you choose, it is important to get some good protection. And this is where the 5-in-1 case and lens and screen protector kits from Humixx come in. For an attractive price, these kits give you everything you need. First is the Clear case, featuring an anti-oxidation coating and upgraded German Bayer material. This case effectively blocks up to 99.9% of UV rays, which will resist it from yellowing over time, as is something you will commonly find with other Clear cases. And then for even more protection, there is the Shockproof series, featuring 10-foot military-grade drop protection, with added protection in the corners, all in a rugged design that feels really good in the hand. But what about the rest of the phone? Well, both kits contain 2x tempered glass screen protectors to keep your display scratch-free. And then last but not least, there is also 2x camera lens protectors included. Altogether, this gives your phone 360-degree protection to keep your expensive iPhone looking good. To learn more about the 5-in-1 case and lens and screen protector kits from Humixx, be sure to click the links in the description. A big thank you to Humixx for supporting the channel. Now back to the iPhone 13 and 14 comparison. So what do these phones have in common? Well, tell me this. In the comments, can you let me know which phone is the iPhone 14? Is it this one or is it this one? I think the eagle-eyed among you may know that the iPhone 14 has a slightly bigger camera module, thus making this the iPhone 14. But the point is, from the outside, they look pretty much identical. With the same squared-off design, matte aluminum frame, glossy glass back, as well as having the same all-day battery life, both lasting me all day and evening, with just around 20 to 25% remaining. Also with the same crack resistant but prone to scratching ceramic shield on the front. By the way, I will leave my recommended screen protector in the description. They also have the same notch with Face ID, the same 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR display where colors look good, text is sharp, and overall is a joy to use. All of this is to show that these phones have far more similarities than they do differences. So with that in mind, which phone should you buy? I would say this: if you are picking between the iPhone 14 and iPhone 13, go for the iPhone 13 and save the $100. This is if you buy straight from Apple, but if you look at eBay or Amazon, I'm sure you can find it for even better prices. The iPhone 13 offers much of the best of what the iPhone 14 has to offer: display, battery, almost identical performance, and very similar camera systems. There's only 2 reasons why I would suggest going for the iPhone 14 over the iPhone 13. And the first reason is those health features and safety features that we talked about, specifically emergency SOS via satellite. Now, if you're someone who spends a lot of time off the grid, outdoors, then this feature could literally be life-saving and would be really great to have. And the second reason is if you want a larger display, in which case the iPhone 14 Plus for $100 more gives you that same 6.7-inch display as from the what would previously be the Pro Max model, and also adds the best ever battery life in a smartphone. I actually think that unlike the iPhone 14, the 14 Plus is a pretty good value phone. I have done a full review on that phone if you're curious to learn more. But as for the regular iPhone 14, I said this in my review and it's just as true today. It's a phone that is hard to recommend when the last generation is still so good and now at a lower price. I do hope this pushes Apple to do more when it comes to the next generation iPhone 15. But for the time being, between the 14 and 13, go for the 13 and save some cash. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helped you out with your buying decision, but if you do have any questions about the iPhone 13 or 14 or any of the new iPhones, please leave them down below and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.